All right, imagine someone telling you the secret to happiness isn't about fancy cars or lavish vacations, but about simplifying your life, serving others, and always being truthful. Sounds a bit uh radical, right?
Definitely not the usual message we hear these days.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. Mahatma Gandhi's unique perspective on happiness.
Should be interesting.
We've got excerpts from this podcast episode, Happiness According to Gandhi, Finding Joy in Truth, Service, and Simplicity. And let me tell you, it's packed with insights. It might just turn your whole idea of happiness upside down.
It certainly challenges the way we're often told to pursue happiness, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So, to really understand where these ideas come from, let's start with Gandhi himself. You probably know him as the leader of India's independence movement,
Right.
but he was so much more than that.
He was born way back in 1869, studied law in England, led a remarkable life, really. But what's fascinating for our deep dive today is that he was this profound spiritual thinker. His teachings, they go way beyond politics, touching on how to live a meaningful life. And that's where his unique perspective on happiness comes in.
Okay, so beyond the history books, who was Gandhi the man?
Gandhi believed that happiness wasn't something you chase out in the world. It was an inner state. He wasn't concerned with external success or pleasure. It was all about cultivating this deep sense of contentment within yourself.
That's pretty different from how a lot of us think about happiness today, right? We're always looking for the next thing to make us happy, the next purchase, the next achievement.
Exactly. And that's what makes Gandhi's perspective so relevant. He had this powerful quote, "Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony." He called this living in alignment with truth and integrity.
Whoa. I feel like I need to write that one down. So it's not about these fleeting moments of joy. It's about living a life that truly reflects who you are and what you believe in.
You got it. And to get there, Gandhi outlined 4 key pillars. They formed the foundation of his philosophy on happiness.
All right, I'm ready. Let's unpack these pillars. What's the first one?
The first pillar is all about truth and integrity, what Gandhi called satya. For him, living truthfully wasn't just about avoiding lies, it was about aligning your actions with your deepest values. And when you do that, when your life reflects what you truly believe, it brings a sense of inner peace and harmony.
So it's about constantly checking in with yourself and making sure you're walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
That's a great way to put it. It's about being honest with yourself, understanding your values, and then making sure your actions are a true reflection of those beliefs. And the more you do that, the closer you get to that inner peace Gandhi talked about.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, what's the next pillar?
The second pillar is nonviolence and compassion, which in Sanskrit is ahimsa. Now, when you hear nonviolence, you might think of physical actions, but for Gandhi, it went much deeper than that. He believed that how we treat others directly impacts our own happiness, and compassion is the key to unlocking that inner peace.
So it's not just about avoiding physical harm, it's about cultivating this sense of peace and kindness in all our interactions.
Exactly. Gandhi believed that holding on to anger, resentment, or judging others, it actually disrupts our own inner peace. He saw nonviolence as a way of life, a way of thinking and being in the world that extended to our thoughts, words, and actions.
It's like that saying holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It really highlights how negativity affects you as first and foremost.
I love that. And there's actually a ton of modern research that backs up Gandhi's thinking. Studies show that practicing mindfulness and compassion can reduce stress, improve mental health, even boost our immune system.
Wow, so Gandhi was really onto something. Okay, so we've got truth, we've got compassion. What's the third pillar all about?
This one might surprise you. It's about service to others, what Gandhi called seva. He believed that true fulfillment comes from stepping outside of yourself and dedicating your energy to helping others. He saw this as a path to genuine happiness, a way to connect with something larger than yourself.
So it's not just about focusing on my own happiness, it's about finding joy in contributing to the well-being of others.
That's the heart of it. And it doesn't have to be grand gestures either. Gandhi believed that even small acts of kindness, helping a neighbor, listening to a friend, these can make a huge difference, both for the person you're helping and for your own sense of happiness.
I can see how helping others could create a sense of purpose and connection, especially in a world that can feel pretty isolating sometimes. What a powerful idea. All right, what's the final pillar of Gandhi's happiness philosophy?
This one might be the most challenging for many of us to grasp. It's about simplicity and minimalism. Now, Gandhi was famous for his simple lifestyle, owning very few possessions and focusing on what he saw as truly essential.
That's a tough one to swallow in our world of buy more, be happy, isn't it? I mean, we're bombarded with messages telling us we need the latest gadgets, the newest clothes, the bigger house.
Right. But Gandhi believed all that stuff was a distraction from true happiness. He felt that material possessions actually create anxiety and a sense of never having enough. He was all about finding contentment with what you have and focusing on experiences, relationships, and inner peace.
So it's not about rejecting everything. It's about understanding that things don't define us or our happiness. It's about shifting our focus from material things to experiences and relationships that bring lasting joy.
Exactly. Gandhi saw material possessions as a trap, something that could easily take over your life and prevent you from finding true contentment.
You know, there's something really liberating about that idea, especially in today's world where we're constantly being told we need more, more, more. It's like Gandhi is offering us permission to step off that treadmill and find happiness in a completely different way.
He absolutely is. And what's so fascinating is that these ideas he developed decades ago, they're incredibly relevant to our lives today, maybe even more so than they were back then.
I'm starting to see that. Okay, so we've laid out these four pillars: truth, nonviolence, service, and simplicity. But how did Gandhi actually suggest people bring these ideas into their daily lives? That's what I'm really curious about.
Well, he had some very specific and surprisingly practical methods for putting these pillars into action.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into that. Let's unpack those methods and see how we can apply them to our own lives. You know, I'm starting to think this deep dive might just change the way I think about happiness.
So we've been unpacking these four pillars of Gandhi's philosophy on happiness: truth, nonviolence, service, and simplicity. And you might be thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but how does it actually apply to I'm my life?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It is a great question. Because even though Gandhi developed these ideas decades ago, they're incredibly relevant to the challenges we face in the modern world.
You know, I was just thinking the same thing. Like, the world has changed so much since Gandhi's time, but his ideas about happiness seem to transcend time and place.
Exactly. And one area where his teachings are super relevant is in helping us align with our values in a world that's becoming increasingly complex. Think about it. You're constantly bombarded with information, different opinions, conflicting messages. It's easy to feel lost and unsure of what you truly stand for.
Oh, tell me about it. It feels like everyone's got an opinion these days, and it's all over social media, the news, everywhere you turn. It's hard to know what to believe sometimes.
Right. And that's where Gandhi's emphasis on truth and integrity comes in. He believed that by focusing on your own values and making sure your actions reflect those values, you can create a sense of inner stability amidst all the chaos.
So it's like having this inner compass that guides you, regardless of what's happening around you.
Exactly. It's about defining what's important to you and then using that as a filter for all the noise and distractions in the world.
That's such a powerful idea, especially in today's world. Okay, so truth and integrity can help us navigate the complexities of modern life. What about nonviolence and compassion? How does that fit into the picture?
Well, let's be honest. Stress and anxiety are practically epidemic these days. We're all rushing around trying to do it all, and it's taking a toll on our well-being.
Seriously, sometimes it feels like everyone's just one bad day away from a meltdown.
Right. And that's where Gandhi's emphasis on nonviolence and compassion offers a powerful antidote. When you approach life with patience, understanding, and kindness, you create a more peaceful environment, not just for others, but for yourself too.
So it's about choosing to react to situations with calmness and empathy instead of letting stress and frustration take over.
Exactly. It's about being mindful of your thoughts, words, and actions, and choosing to respond in a way that promotes peace and understanding, both internally and externally. And this is something you can practice in every aspect of your life,
Hmm.
from how you interact with your family and friends to how you handle challenges at work.
It's like that saying, you can't control the waves, but you can learn to surf.
I love that. It's
Aren't
about finding that inner peace that allows you to navigate the ups and downs of life without getting swept away by the current.
This is making so much sense. Okay, so we've talked about truth and nonviolence. What about service? How does dedicating yourself to helping others actually lead to happiness?
Well, one of the big challenges of modern life is that it can feel incredibly isolating. You're constantly bombarded with messages that tell you to focus on your own success, your own happiness, your own needs.
Yeah, it's like everyone's just looking out for number one.
Exactly. And that can create a sense of disconnection and loneliness. But Gandhi believed that true fulfillment comes from stepping outside of yourself and focusing on the well-being of others.
So it's about finding that sense of connection and purpose through serving something larger than yourself.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be some grand, heroic act. It can be as simple as volunteering at a local charity, helping an elderly neighbor, or simply listening to a friend who needs to talk.
I've actually noticed that when I take the time to help someone else, I feel a sense of joy and satisfaction that I don't get from buying things or achieving personal goals. It's like it fills a different kind of void.
That's exactly what Gandhi was talking about. And there's research that shows that acts of kindness actually release endorphins in the brain, which have mood-boosting effects.
Mm.
So helping others literally makes you feel good.
Wow, so there's a scientific basis for it too. That's fascinating. Okay, so truth helps us navigate complexity, nonviolence brings peace, and service connects us to something bigger than ourselves. What about simplicity? How does that contribute to happiness in our very material world?
Well, let's be real. We live in a world that's obsessed with material possessions. It's everywhere. Advertising, social media, even our own families and friends.
Mhm.
We're constantly being told that we need to buy more stuff to be happy.
It's like we're on this treadmill of wanting more, 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 and it never seems to end.
Exactly. And that's why Gandhi's commitment to simplicity is so relevant today. He believed that all those material possessions were actually a distraction from true happiness. They create anxiety, stress, and a sense of never having enough.
I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling. We buy things thinking they'll make us happy, but then the happiness fades quickly and we're left wanting more.
It's a vicious cycle. But Gandhi believed that by simplifying our lives and detaching from material desires, we can break free from that cycle and find true contentment.
So it's not about getting rid of everything and living like a monk. It's about recognizing that true happiness doesn't come from things, but from experiences, relationships, and a sense of inner peace.
Precisely. It's about asking yourself, what truly brings me joy? What do I value most in life? And then aligning your actions with those values.
It's about finding happiness in the simple things, like spending time with loved ones, enjoying nature, or pursuing a passion, rather than constantly chasing after the next shiny object.
Exactly. And, it's interesting to think about how this applies to our digital lives as well. We're constantly bombarded with images of people living these seemingly perfect lives on social media.
Oh, absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others and feeling like we're not good enough.
Right. And that's the opposite of what Gandhi was talking about.
Mm.
He believed that true happiness comes from within, from being true to yourself, not from trying to keep up with everyone else.
So it's about being mindful of how we use technology and making sure it's not dictating our sense of self-worth or happiness.
Absolutely. It's about using technology as a tool, but not letting it become our master.
All this talk about simplicity and contentment is really making me think about my own life. I've got a closet full of clothes I never wear, a garage full of stuff I don't need, and I'm constantly checking my phone for the latest updates and notifications.
It sounds like you're ready for a little Gandhi-inspired decluttering, both physically and digitally.
I think you might be right. And it's not just about getting rid of things, it's about creating space for what truly matters. Spending time with loved ones, pursuing my passions, and making a positive impact on the world.
That's the heart of it. It's about creating a life that's aligned with your values and filled with the things that bring you genuine joy.
All right, so we've explored how Gandhi's teachings on truth, nonviolence, service, and simplicity can help us navigate some of the biggest challenges of modern life. But he also gave some very specific and practical advice on how to actually bring these ideas into our daily lives.
You're right. Gandhi didn't just talk about these things. He offered concrete steps you can take to cultivate happiness.
Okay, I'm ready for the actionable advice. What are some things we can do, starting today, to bring a little bit of Gandhi's wisdom into our lives?
Well, one of the most powerful things you could do is to practice daily self-reflection.
So taking some time each day to just check in with myself and see how I'm doing.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out meditation session. Even just a few minutes of quiet reflection can make a big difference. Think about it like this. You probably check your email and social media multiple times a day. Why not make it a habit to check in with yourself just as often?
That's a great point. It's so easy to get caught up in the external world that we forget to take the time to connect with what's happening inside. So what exactly should I be reflecting on during these check-ins?
Well, Gandhi believed that in order to live truthfully, you need to regularly examine your thoughts and actions. Ask yourself, are my actions aligned with my values? Am I being honest with myself and others? Am I contributing to the well-being of others?
So it's about holding myself accountable and making sure I'm walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Precisely. And by being honest about your motivations, you can gain clarity on whether or not your actions are actually serving you and those around you. You might be surprised at what you discover about yourself.
Okay, I'm adding daily self-reflection to my to-do list. What else can I do to bring Gandhi's teachings to life?
Well, another key takeaway is to cultivate compassion, not just in your actions, but also in your thoughts and words. Remember, Gandhi believed that violence begins in the mind.
So if I'm constantly judging myself or others or harboring negative thoughts, that's creating a kind of inner violence that ultimately prevents me from experiencing true happiness.
Exactly. So the practice here is to be mindful of your inner dialogue. Notice when those negative thoughts pop up and gently redirect your attention to something more positive.
It's like training a puppy, right? You don't punish them for bad behavior, you just gently redirect them to the right path.
That's a great analogy. And it's not just about thoughts, it's about words too. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself and others. Are you choosing words that build up or tear down? Are you approaching conversations with empathy and understanding?
So it's about creating a more peaceful and harmonious environment, both internally and externally.
Exactly. And, it's not always easy to choose compassion, especially when you're feeling hurt, angry, or frustrated. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. It's like building a muscle.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of this fits together. Truth helps me stay grounded, nonviolence brings peace, and compassion fosters kindness and understanding. What about service? How can I actively incorporate that into my life?
Gandhi believed that everyone has something to offer, no matter how small. It's not about grand gestures or heroic acts. It's about finding ways to contribute to the well-being of others in your everyday life.
So, what are some practical examples of how I can do that?
Well, it can be as simple as helping a neighbor with their groceries, volunteering at a local soup kitchen, or even just listening to a friend who needs to vent.
I love that. It's about recognizing those small opportunities to make a difference and being willing to step up and help. It's about shifting our focus from what's in it for me to how can I contribute to the well-being of others.
That's the heart of it. And the amazing thing is that when you start looking for those opportunities, you'll find them everywhere. It might be holding the door open for someone, offering a kind word to a stranger, or donating to a cause you believe in.
It's like a ripple effect, right? One small act of kindness can inspire another, and so on.
Exactly. And that's how we create a more compassionate and caring world, one small act at a time.
I'm really starting to understand the power of Gandhi's teachings. They're not just about personal happiness. They're about creating a better world for everyone.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Gandhi believed that personal happiness and societal well-being are inextricably linked. When we cultivate inner peace, compassion, and a spirit of service, we naturally contribute to a more just and harmonious world.
So, truth, nonviolence, service. We're hitting all the pillars here. But what about simplicity? How can I apply that in my own life?
Well, this one can be a bit more challenging, especially in our consumer-driven society. But the key is to start by questioning your relationship with material possessions.
So, taking a step back and asking myself, do I really need all this stuff?
Exactly. And a helpful way to approach this is to ask yourself, does this item bring me genuine joy, or is it just taking up space?
That's a good question. I think I have a lot of things that fall into the just taking up space category.
I think a lot of us do. And that's
Yeah.
okay. The goal isn't to get rid of everything and live like a minimalist monk. It's about being intentional about what you bring into your life and making sure it aligns with your values and priorities.
So it's not about deprivation, it's about creating a life that's filled with the things that truly matter to me.
Exactly. And when you start letting go of the excess, you'll likely find that you have more time, energy, and resources to devote to the things that bring you genuine happiness.
This is giving me so much to think about. I'm definitely feeling inspired to simplify my life and focus on what truly matters.
That's fantastic. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. You don't have to do it all at once. Just start by taking small steps, like decluttering a drawer or unsubscribing from emails you never read.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about how Gandhi's teachings can help us navigate the complexities of modern life, reduce stress and anxiety, find fulfillment through service, and create a more meaningful and sustainable lifestyle.
You've got it. And I think what's so amazing about Gandhi's philosophy is that it's not just a set of ideas, it's a way of life. It's about aligning your thoughts, words, and actions with your deepest values and creating a life that's filled with truth, compassion, and purpose.
You know what's really struck me throughout this deep dive is that Gandhi's teachings aren't just about finding happiness for yourself, they're about creating a better world for everyone.
Absolutely. Gandhi believed that personal happiness and societal well-being are interconnected. When we cultivate inner peace, compassion, and a spirit of service, we naturally contribute to a more just and harmonious world.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on happiness. But before we wrap things up, I'm curious to explore one more area where Gandhi's teachings might offer some valuable insights.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What do you have in mind?
Well, we've talked a lot about the challenges of modern life, but there's one area we haven't touched on yet: social media. I'm wondering what Gandhi would have to say about our constant pursuit of online validation and the pressure to present a perfect image to the world.
That's a fascinating question. It seems like there's a real tension between Gandhi's philosophy of simplicity, truth, and inner peace, and the often superficial and image-driven world of social media.
Exactly. So how can we reconcile those two things? How can we apply Gandhi's wisdom to our digital lives? That's what I'd love to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
I'm in. Let's take a moment to gather our thoughts and then dive into that fascinating conversation.
So we've been talking about Gandhi's philosophy and how it applies to the modern world, but here's a really interesting question. What would Gandhi think about social media?
And our obsession with online validation. It's fascinating to consider, isn't it? You have Gandhi, this champion of truth and authenticity, living a simple life, focused on inner peace. And then you have social media, which often encourages these carefully curated personas, highlight reels. It seems like there's a fundamental disconnect there.
It's like we're chasing this hollow version of happiness, right? Gandhi was all about the contentment that comes from within, but we're seeking validation from external sources, likes, comments, followers, almost like we've outsourced our happiness to algorithms.
Exactly. And this constant comparison to others online, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, envy, even anxiety. It's the opposite of the peace and contentment Gandhi advocated for. He believed happiness was an inside job, not something you achieve through external validation.
Plus, there's that pressure to always be on, to
Yeah.
present this perfect, happy image, even
Yeah.
if it doesn't reflect reality.
Right.
Gandhi was all about being true to yourself, flaws and all. He encouraged vulnerability and honesty, which can be hard to find in the curated world of social media.
It raises an important question. How does technology impact our well-being? If Gandhi were alive today, he likely wouldn't condemn social media entirely, but he probably urges us to use it mindfully, intentionally, aligning it with our values rather than letting it dictate our self-worth.
So not letting it control our emotions or make us feel like we're not good enough.
Right. And remember his emphasis on simplicity. He might suggest we take regular breaks from all the digital noise, reconnect with ourselves through nature, meditation, spending time with loved ones, and most importantly, focusing on real-world interactions and experiences rather than virtual ones.
Gandhi was all about being present in the moment, not constantly documenting it for others. I wonder what he'd say about the fear of missing out that social media can fuel.
He'd probably remind us that true joy comes from within, not from keeping up with everyone else's carefully crafted online persona. Contentment, as he practiced it, is about appreciating what you have, not longing for what you don't. It's about finding satisfaction in the present moment, rather than constantly seeking the next dopamine hit from a notification.
It's about finding happiness in the simple things, not chasing fleeting trends or seeking validation from strangers online.
Precisely. And think about his focus on service. Imagine if we channeled that energy from curating online personas into making a real difference in our communities.
That's a powerful thought. Instead of seeking likes, we could be volunteering, supporting local businesses, connecting with our neighbors, engaging in acts of kindness that create genuine positive change.
Exactly. Gandhi's teachings remind us that true happiness isn't about amassing followers. It's about being a force for good in the world. It's about aligning our actions with our values and making a tangible, positive impact on the world around us.
So what does this all mean for us today? It feels like Gandhi's message is more relevant than ever, even in the context of social media. It's like he's offering this roadmap for finding genuine happiness in a world that's saturated with virtual distractions.
It absolutely is. His teachings encourage us to step back, question our motivations, and prioritize authenticity over appearances. It's about using technology as a tool, not letting it become our master. It's about remembering that we have the power to choose how we engage with the digital world.
It's about finding that balance, Right. Embracing the positive aspects of technology while also staying grounded in our values and remembering what truly matters: connection, compassion, service, simplicity. Those are the things that bring lasting happiness, not likes and followers.
Exactly. Gandhi's philosophy isn't about rejecting the modern world. It's about navigating it with intention, wisdom, and a focus on inner peace over external validation. It's about recognizing that true happiness is an inside job.
So, to wrap up this deep dive, Gandhi's message is powerful. It reminds us that true happiness comes from within. It's about alignment, compassion, service, and simplicity. It's not always the easiest path, but it might just be the most rewarding.
It's a journey worth taking, even in today's complex digital world. His teachings offer this timeless wisdom that can guide us towards a more fulfilling and meaningful life, both online and offline.
And on that note, we leave you with one final thought. Yeah. If Gandhi were scrolling through our social media feeds today, what do you think he would say? Would he see a reflection of his values or a distortion of them? Something to think about as you navigate your own digital life.